Good afternoon and welcome to How the Business is Played. I am your host, Sharice Williams, sports business executive, Hall of Fame marketer, former volleyball player. Excited to be back with you after a bit of a hiatus to prove to you that we go from filming to posting with minimal production. I'm just going to tell you that today is Friday and it's May 2nd. And you may see this post on Friday, May 2nd, because that is how we roll. The goal is to give you straight talk, no chaser around what is happening in the business of sports. And so much is going on that I brought back my friend, NIL expert, agent Ivory Tab, to talk about what she and I have been seeing over the last few weeks in sports business. Ivory?
Hello, hello. Like I said, it's great to be back. Sharice loves volleyball. My passion is track, and that season is getting heated up, and I'm sure we'll have some conversations about that later on down the road. But the biggest thing right now is right now all the major sports have something going on. And it normally happens in April. And then what's interesting about that fun fact is then in October, all the major sports actually play besides the WNBA. So that's always a fun fact.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff that has taken place and that's coming up. And as by way of summary, so I had the chance to go to the most amazing conference. I think it was last week at this point. Deep Blue Sports and Entertainment Summit for Women, put on by Laura Conti and her team. It's in its third year. It's the first time that I have had the chance to attend. The first thing that stuck out for me when I saw that this event was happening here in New York City was the date. Same week as Sports Business World Congress of Sports, put on by Sports Business Journal. And at first when I saw that, I was like, oh, this is interesting. Another major event taking place at the same time. Could this be? What's this event going to be like? And when I tell you, I was beyond impressed. I was beyond impressed. So first of all, it tackled sports business and the women's side from every angle.
Okay.
It talked about global, including global sports such as cricket. It went all the way through the professional leagues and even talked about the new leagues. Like there's a panel with Unrivaled and, with other, new leagues that have launched. It went into college athletics. You had Flage and the Bet sister from UCLA talking about NIL. And there was even a session on investment. And what I love so much about this and more, I didn't even give it all justice. But what was really interesting and one of the key takeaways for me was that what I know, because I'm in this and I really love women's sports, is that it truly has much more potential to be sports business and not women's sports because the fact that these fans are just so massive in terms of what they can do, in terms of like their buying power, in terms of their influence. And what's happening is you have more people, mostly women, but not all women, but you have more people talking about it and putting the facts forward to where, like, honestly, people have to pay attention. So I just wanted to say kudos to anyone that was involved with it. And I must say the room was impeccable. The women I met there, phenomenal in terms of just being in touch with what's happening, being boss ladies and what they do. And I love that there was like NFL sponsors, not just women's sports sponsors, but NFL sponsors that are also active, like an Invisalign,
Okay.
in the women's side of things. So it's something that I've now circled that I will attend every year. And I encourage you to show up because they really do a great job of showing the diversity of what's happening in the sports landscape.
That's it. That is very interesting too, because like me, you go to a lot of conferences. So when you say this something was phenomenal at something that we're always at, that's already a plus one. And then, like you said, to put it on as a women's conference, the same time as sports business, where we know that's normally full of men, I feel like that was very strategic. And based on the rave reviews that you're giving it, it worked out well.
Yes, and I will give Sports Business Journal conference one plug because a woman, Lily Checketts, who I just met, a few weeks ago, another event in New York. She is the founder of Sports Ish, and so she actually spoke at the World Congress of Sports. And same thing, she was there to speak on behalf of the female fans. So they definitely, check the box in terms of bringing that forward. But this summit was so in depth. So I just feel like it's a must attend and I will be there again next year and we'll definitely be looking out to see what else that they have in the future.
Fair enough.
What? You know what else happened? Sorry, go ahead, Ivory.
No, I was going to say, let me tell you what I was not pleased with in the last few weeks.
Ooh, do tell.
First, the WNBA draft. And I'm not going to say the draft itself. I'm going to say when the hype happened between Angel and Caitlin, the first thing I said was the WNBA needs to put a very strategic position in place where it is the league and college a liaison, because I feel like the rival is what pushed it, and the rival is what gave it so much attention, and the rival is what pushed those numbers over. And this year, I just felt like it didn't have the spark. Yes, we all were waiting for Paige, and yes, we knew she was going to go number one. And kudos to all of the ladies that got drafted. But I do not think it had an air of excitement, nor did they build on what they did last year. And I feel like it was a missed opportunity.
Ooh, wow. That's a hot take. And I would say that I definitely didn't see the same level that came after the Angel, Caitlin class. And I wonder if because there were so many storylines that were going on, including the fact that people like Olivia Miles chose not to come out
Yes.
and be drafted, right? So you had a couple of women who chose not to enter the draft. So in terms of the star power, there were some great faces, but some were missing, right?
Yes.
And then also, and even that's the storyline, because why are people choosing to play college another year when the dream, we know it's the dream of these
No,
women, they've said it out loud, is to play professionally.
I know
Now,
what, and you know
go
what it
ahead.
is. This
What is
NIL,
it?
this NIL money. So a stat that, and this is a stat from 2 years ago, and I will find the stat for this year. So they said in the NFL before, right, the second year of NIL, they had 1,000 kids. Let's just 1,000 around. Let's go with a number around 1,000 kids that were underclass signed up. Oh, not 1,000, 100, like 100 kids signed up to go. And then when NIL hit, they said like only 20% moved. So that junior year is what they're saying is instead of going from the NFL your junior year and getting out, going to make that money and putting your name in, most kids have opted to stay in. And I feel like it's the same with women's basketball. We know that some of these deals are giving them more money than their initial salary, with that initial salary only being 75,000. So you could stay in school for another year, and also now even more than another year if you went the JUCO route, because that law, they're trying to change that law, and another court case came through this week where basically JUCO doesn't count. So you could go to JUCO for 2 years, then still go play in college for another 4 to 5, because that's going to be like a warm up. So you will get more money staying than you will going.
And you know what? So one thing is when they do go to the professional ranks, they still can get endorsement deals, right? So if you're, if you're Haley Van Lith and you're with Adidas, now you can still be with them as a pro. So they have to be renegotiated, obviously, but you can pretty much take your deal with you. But I think what's interesting is two things. One, college experience is a college experience. Like, I know I was in a rush trying to graduate early and all these crazy things that if I were to go backwards, it was like, what a time in your life to not have responsibilities and have your best friends and teammates around you and, all that sort of thing. Like, so I think there is something to be said around a college experience, especially if you are in a good culture. Questions around cultures based on how people are transferring. But if you're in a great culture, I think that you wouldn't mind sticking around if you can still have a similar life financially. But to me, the thing that was the biggest, potentially a big reason why is, as we know, the CBA is being negotiated right now. In October 2024, they opted out of, the CBA. So they have between now and October 2025 to negotiate a new one. Why is that important? Because these rookie salaries, as you pointed out, are low. So I think some rookies are hoping that when they sign their rookie deal, which they will be on for a few years, that it's a little bit higher. So with that in mind, sticking in college another year, enjoying the fruits of not being professional, maybe winning a championship, working on your skills, and potentially making more money as a rookie makes a ton of sense. And you know
Oh,
what? That's being highlighted because another note that came out, I think maybe even just this week, is that it's rumored. I don't think I've seen it verified anywhere that Paige Beckers has already signed a 3-year deal with Unrivaled.
oh yeah.
And it's
I
rumored
don't know.
that it's 6 figures, which is higher than her rookie WNBA salary.
I'm not going to quote unquote and say rumored. I'm going to say I've seen it flash several places, so I'm going to go with it. And that's smart because here's going to be the difference now, especially with the WNBA. And let's take Angel for example. She didn't have to go across overseas this summer. She didn't have to travel to a foreign country. She didn't have to play on different soil. She didn't have to do any of those things except go down to Miami, work in her game, meet with her personal coaches, get some extra time on the court to become. And yes, even though she got hurt the last 2 games, her team was in the championship. So for her, that works out perfectly. Then you look at Caitlin, and Caitlin was like, "Oh, I didn't do anything because I had so many miles underneath me. So I'll come back to it, this year." And then now it looks like you said, with them doing so well, there's going to be so many other girls that opt in to play it. And that, remember, they were paying way more than the WNBA salary.
Mhm.
Also, another reason why Unrivaled hit and did so well is because we are surely going to take on the focus of having the best 3-on-3 team in the world when it comes to Olympics,
That's right.
and the perfect practice and training ground for it.
Right. And that's what other countries have had on us, right? They train year round. These teams play together oftentimes year round. And the US hasn't had that. So watch out now that you have women playing together and building those bonds and learning the strategy of the game differently. So it should be exciting from an Olympic standpoint. It's a really good point.
Yeah, because at this point we didn't play it. We threw teams together and you
Mhm.
got what you got. And the women got a bronze, but like you said, imagine if it's focused, and it will be now. And so now there's also, let's keep in mind, 3 other open spots for someone to go to the Olympics if they don't make the Olympic team and they've been playing in Unrivaled for 3 years. So
Mm.
and it works. And kudos to them because they had a fantastic season. I'm sure they're going to add more seats. I'm sure they're going to get more sponsors. And then, like we said, with the new young ladies who are still in college kind of feeding into that, that's going to be just a great pipeline for an alternative off season.
Yeah, you know what? And I think Unrivaled actually almost broke even in their first year, which is absolutely unheard of. So I think we'll be talking about this league for a long time because they truly seem to get it. I know Kirby Porter at the conference I was just at was talking about their secret sauce is that the league was built by the players. And when it's built
Yeah,
by the players, like they know what they need to play at their highest level. They know
yeah,
every little detail that helps them show up and be their best. And so when they're driving that decision making, it shows up in the field of play. It shows up in the marketing. It shows up in the partnerships. These women have a lot of say in terms of the brands that they feel good about. And quite frankly, the league seems to be humming. So I'm definitely keeping my eye on them. And I think what's something I'm curious about, it just came to mind for the first time as we're talking about money and leagues and playing and endorsements. A lot of times with player contracts, you'll see bonuses, say from your shoe, partner that says, "Hey, if you win an MVP in the WNBA, you get a bonus. If you win a gold medal, you get a bonus." I guess these contracts have to include Unrivaled now and other leagues and I wonder whether people are winning if they get MVP of that or they win a championship. So I love this for the women, like literally creating new streams of revenue.
yes. And like I said, it's one of those things, especially when it's not, and I've hear athletes all the time, especially in basketball, you know, working and, oh, we're having to travel and those back to backs and those games. That was one thing that I think that they did very well by putting everything in Miami. And I heard as I was reading their end of the year report that they might be playing in other cities. And I hope that really doesn't have the effect on it. I hope it has a bigger effect, like, oh, more markets can see it. So that's great. But I also hope it doesn't take away from, like you said, the ladies, and we're just in Miami and we're here playing and we know what that set schedule looks like. So it's easy for us to manage and have an off season inside of another season.
Yeah, so interesting. I put my sponsor hat on. I'm trying to think like, I have to wonder where the sponsors are getting most of their value from it. And when it's limited in one place, and with the limited number of seats they had, I'm sure it changed the effect on the amount of consumers they could reach, at least from like a in stadium standpoint. So there could be a push to go to other cities to help reach places and spaces they're trying to be in. But I don't know. I think that it's possible that if you really work socials and other forms of digital media, you really can take Miami and that whole effect and take it to other places. So I don't know. I'm team Miami. I like the way it felt in there. And I think they can grow it for sponsors, but we do know that money talks. So we will see how this evolves for sure.
Staying with women. Can we just stay right here in women's basketball just for a little?
Yeah.
Malaysia left.
Oh.
I know, I'm hyped because she left South Carolina, and the Jersey in me, the Philly in me is Dawn, is for Dawn. But when we get down to this LSU, where I go.
You was torn.
I'm like, oh, she's coming to us. But what is so interesting, especially with you, and I was like, I can't wait to talk to her about this business piece, is this Under Armour piece. So yes, she left South Carolina. South Carolina is the Under Armour school. She came to LSU. We are a Nike school. Flage has a Puma deal as well. And I've seen what she's done with wearing it off the court. Do you really feel like Under Armour is still going to get their bang for their buck? Or put on your sponsor hat, would you have to, or would you renegotiate what that looks like for her?
If I'm Under Armour?
Yes.
Oh, I'm keeping Malaysia full while. Come on now. Like, first of all,
I didn't say drop her.
Do what?
I didn't say drop her. Renegotiate the terms, because now she's not wearing it every day. She can only wear it on her off time.
You know what? No. And here's why. Under Armour and Curry brand and Malaysia, they clearly got something going on that's working well. And the reason I say that is because Stephen Curry multiple times has been seen supporting her. So one time he was in the tunnel wearing a shirt that had her on it. After or either during the transfer conversation, he was wearing one of her player exclusives. So clearly Stephen has his hand in this, as I know he is very involved in the Under Armour and Curry brand in terms of even his role with the company. So I feel certain that she is a high asset for them. Yeah. I feel pretty certain about that. But I want to give Under Armour some props because I found it fascinating. And again, I worked there, love the brand. But truth be told, people aren't talking about Under Armour a lot compared to Nike or to Adidas. But when I tell you something about their partnership has really stuck, maybe it's women's sports fans being so in tuned. Maybe it's because Stephen took it upon himself to endorse her. But before she could even barely announce that she was leaving, people were talking about her Under Armour contract. And I was like, look at her, look at here. People are involved right now. And Under Armour was a topic of conversation.
Well, like we had in our last pod that we talked about how New Balance fumbled the ball with Cooper because he played at a Nike school. This will be the same thing. And I would love to see how Under Armour is going to pivot. And I, coming from the management side and activation in my mind, I'm like, okay, we're going to do some cat because, now she's in Baton Rouge, the whole city. Let's flood Baton Rouge outside of LSU being a Nike school. Let's flood that with Under Armour. She got to do meets and greets. She got to pass out schools. She got to go to all the local places. Like there are so many activations that they can do that she still can run with. And literally when I say run with, because they're a Nike school and she's going to have on all of the best Nike gear. So now you have to step up, Malaysia, and actually push yourself and push the I am an Under Armour athlete off court. And I can't wait to see what they come up with.
Yeah, I love that. Listen, you're right. They leveraged her sparingly because they had the team. But you're right. This will be the time to turn up the heat because she is going to be a topic of conversation. So if all eyes are on her, eyes need to be on Curry brand too. So free game for them. Hopefully they were listening. They'll listen to this.
Hopefully, yes. Who else needs free game? How about Shador?
So Shador. So you and I, we don't really talk too much about the X's and O's and what's happening on the field, but the NFL draft, okay, so it's kind of like when you're looking for a job, right? Yes. And we all know that student athletes have a lot of qualities that people want to hire them for. They're hardworking. Oftentimes they know how to win. great leaders,
Sure.
time management, all these things that, people talk about when they're recruiting student athletes into professional job. And Shador, like in spades, has all that going on for him, right? And people have seen it.
Yes.
But the one critical part of getting any job is the interview process,
Yes.
because that's where you determine if you're a match.
Yes.
So what I saw about Shador, and again, I love everything he's accomplished on the field, and I don't have a problem with the fact that he is confident in himself at all. But it seemed like the interview process may have been a lot to be desired there, and probably had a lot to do with what happened in the end.
I'm going to pull it back even further than that. And I look at it as the whole pre-draft process, because that's a lot of intangibles that go into getting ready. And I feel like, for example, like let's say in your interview, if you could put forth a portfolio, getting a job, and then you had your interview, you have two things that kind of balance you. So if you do great in your portfolio, but your interview kind of isn't so good, then it
Mhm.
has something else. There are several things that he did that I think hurt him in the whole pre-draft piece. He didn't go to the combine and work out. And then when he was at the combine, like you said, he had his interviews, and there were plenty of folks that said the interviews didn't do well.
Yeah, and let me clarify, to me, the interview process includes all of that, right?
Yes.
For the NFL, it's the combine plus the actual back and forth interview, et cetera. So just want to clarify that. But yes, the whole process for me was flawed.
And he didn't, he didn't work out at his pro day, really. He also didn't play in any senior bowls. So now all of the other intangibles that we can look at ahead of time, before time to actually get to the draft, you didn't do any of those. So now we're only falling on back what we know, what we heard, and how you interacted with us. And that, to me, I feel like, and then this other piece that I'm going to be determined to figure out if this is true or not, because if this is true, that's when I say, okay, the rumor of Dion being their agent. Now, if that's true, I want to be like, listen, that's not a good idea, because when the agent portion of it gets to work, i.e., when he started falling, and now the agent is on the phone calling GMs, owners, managers, in my mind, I'm like, Dion wasn't on the phone calling nobody. In his mind, my son is the best, and we are leading with this, and that's it. So the connections that you need to make, that's why, as me and you always say, the team that you have around you when it's time to go from a college athlete into professional ranks, that's the most important thing. So for me, I just felt like if that is the case and it's not verified, because we remember when Lamar was trying to get drafted, they all kept talking about, because his mother was his agent, that's why he didn't do well, and that's why he was still sitting. Not once did any news report say this until the end, when Shiloh was joking about him having to fire his daddy and hire a new agent. So to me, if that is true, I think that was also the biggest crux of how we got from 1 to 5.
It all just shines a light on the importance of reading rooms, right?
Yes.
Listen, we've all been in situations where you are, looking for a job, you're trying to pick up some business, like whatever it is you're trying to do. And sometimes you are asked for references,
Yes.
right? Or you choose to get people to call on your behalf. Like, understanding who the right fit is important.
Yes.
And it is what it is. Like, some people may be better suited for some rooms than others. And this is not me talking about Dion at all, but it just seems like in this whole process, a lot of it was coming down to fit
Yes.
and who wants to work, who believes, who likes the way you're chewing your gum, like whatever it is. People got all sort of weird quirks out there in terms of what they're looking at. And that's a little bit of what goes on in life. Now, I personally just want to commend from what I saw. Again, I
Yes.
was not in any room that any of these folks were in, but what I saw from how Shador seemed to have handled it, took it in stride. And I thought it was fine for him to say, you know what this is. That is his belief, and it's his right to say that. But from what I could tell, he rolled with it. And when his name got called, let's talk about the business. We had Delta ready to go.
Yes.
Ready to put that ad forward, right? and
Yes.
to show that he was going into the league, into the next level. I loved that for him because despite all the noise, he still had a national commercial air. And I can't say that I saw that from other people in terms of new, things airing. So I love that Delta was ready for that real time moment. And that he was chosen. And I think that's a reminder of who he is on the field. Again, I'm not gonna be the one to judge. He won. I know that much. Got some records up for a Heisman, all that stuff. Great. I'm rocking with it. But the fact that he can command that sort of real-time marketing opportunity and has since been one of the highest, if not the highest selling rookie jersey coming out of this draft just goes to show that the business is both on the field and off the field, and people are really liking what he is selling.
And another promotion, another hit that was so good is during the season, him and the family had a KFC commercial.
Mm-hmm.
KFC put out a tweet, immediately put out a post with him in it and picture. And I wish I had it in front of me because the wording was so clever. Like drop the spices and dry, even like full of a chicken connotation and his picture there. And I'm like, that's how a partnership goes and stays from an NIL deal as the business of it to move over to now become an endorsement deal that you get when you go into the league. So that is one thing that I've always said that, Dion did a fantastic job setting them up to get ready for the next stage of business. And even with them not coming to the draft, he when they first walked out at the draft, I was like, where is he? I can't wait to see his suit. I'm so excited to see him. And then for them to be at home with all of the legacy pieces, him going onto his site, you can buy a legacy shirt and jersey. I'm like, all of that is a well thought out strategic marketing plan that we can still deploy regardless of what happens during draft day.
I love that. And KFC in particular, I think they were talking about how it took a long time to get to the right recipe.
Yes, they was
That
like
was kind of like the sentiment.
Yes.
That was really smart,
Yes.
for their own brand. I have to go out and check, but I'm pretty sure they're not an info sponsor. So here they are, like trend jacking, right? Getting into a conversation that they don't quote unquote have a right to be. But that's also a benefit of working with athletes because you can go along with them, even if you're not an official, sponsor of a league. So that was smart of them to get themselves in the conversation. And then it was just really relevant and timely. And that's what athletes want. They want partners who are really rocking with them to walk into those real-time moments and really support. So that was just good all the way around.
Yes, and then I was having a conversation on LinkedIn this weekend, and it was about working with influencers or working with NIL. And the young lady for influencer was like, working with NIL athletes is basically a. And I'm like, ma'am, you can't say that. I'm like, because all of the things that you give influencers, and she went to say, you have to do video editing, you have to do content creating, you have to do all this stuff to get them where you want to be. And I'm thinking, ma'am, you have to do the same thing with influencers. All of those things are built into their contract. With athletes, it's authentic, like you just said, it's timely, and it's the brand being able to pivot and come up with ideas on the spot as soon as it happens. Like last year was 7-Eleven and Jamar. I'm like, that was spot on. And that's when you are getting the value from your athlete and the partnerships that turn into from NIL into actual partnerships that you can leverage throughout their whole pro career.
And to be honest, let's just call it what it is. Brands have to have a cultural pulse to be able to do that. Some brands, there is no way they would enter a conversation because one, they don't know that this moment could be hot, or two, there's so much analyzing going on that they're not ready for the moment, and 3 days later it's too late. Which is why it was really interesting when, I don't know if you saw that, I think you probably did, that Rich Paul's Adopt agency was acquired by Publicis.
Oh yeah.
$100 million deal.
I need you to
the whole crux of it, the way they have positioned it, was because it's an intersection of sport, creativity, and culture.
All right. I need you to go back with that deal. I need you to just take it back and let's just think and tell the people how long this agency of Rich has been going. That to me was, what is it? It's not even a year old, is it?
I'm just over here wishing I could I could walk into something like that.
Exactly. Really?
Adopt
You're known for PR.
2021. 2021.
Okay, so now we are, what's that?
4
Like in
years.
3 years in? And you've sold an agency that's brought up literally on, like we've been saying, ideas and people being creative and fast and mixing culture and whatever we're going to put together, let's put together.
Yeah. I mean, that's really just the mic drop right there. I think, again, like brands, it's one of these things where you just got to get in the conversation. And I understand that it's not easy if you're uncomfortable or you don't speak things fluently, but that's where you got to surround yourself with people, either internally, agents, consultants that can, because that's a big signal for a media company to acquire that sort of organization. It's a big signal of where things are going and how to make more money. So even with that, I wonder what conversations have been like inside spaces to see, this bet on sports and culture. What does it mean for us? What are we missing? How should we be thinking about our role in sport and culture?
That, let me tell you how we think about on your sponsorship side. You already said it. You think about hiring people and using people and having people on your roster that are willing and able to move swiftly to bring the things together. On my side, oh, excuse me. On my side, the athlete side, I'm like, you partner with athletes that do that. Like the way that Anthony Edwards is making these videos and trolling the Lakers. He said Ant-Man, Superman, Spider-Man, some man, Lakers in 5. And I'm like, baby, you are using it. He did a walk around and Adidas followed it and chopped it up already and put it out on the internet. So it is that. It's finding the athletes that fit authentically with your brand that's going to give you what you want above and beyond what you paid for.
Mm-hmm. And to speak on, just to take Anthony down a little bit further. So I had a chance to re-sign Anthony with the Sprite brand. And Sprite is having a moment, by the way. It is the number 3 beverage brand in the country. So it is. So it's behind Coke and it's behind Pepsi. Like it's right there, right? So it's number 3. So it's like jump past regular Pepsi, which is amazing for that brand. My point is, Ant-Man is like their guy now. They featured him in their recent Christmas commercial, and it was the Santa Claus. So they're already kind of putting him in character. And one of the reasons, that I can share, because Ant obviously partners with brands that get him, Sprite, this whole obey your thirst and having that mindset of like, do you is really key. So as you're talking, I'm thinking, I wonder what Sprite Social's doing right now. They're not an NBA sponsor, but he's their guy. So be really interested to see how much they get behind this.
And it's one of those things that I'm like, he could have, and when we talk about integration and activations, I'm like, as soon as it's over, you walk, because he literally walked the block in LA after they won last night. And I'm like, you could have just had that casually drinking that Sprite and moving like it was so, but because he's so unpredictable and that's what you like about him, because who says, hey, I'm about to play this game, I'm about to dethrone the king, I'm about to march my team on, and then afterwards, let's walk around the city of LA talking trash to everybody about how how I just did this. I said, oh, yes, Ant-Man, Batman, Superman, Wolves in 5.
It's pretty remarkable. Listen, with any partner, you take the good with the bad, but it's fun. Like it allows you to be in conversations culturally relevant on the pulse of things. And again, everyone's trying to get with Gen Z. Everyone's trying to, lay some eggs with Gen Alpha. Like it really takes being in conversations to be able to do that. But as we think about wrapping, because it's Friday afternoon and I got some things to do today. It's been a really, really, really great week. I'm so excited that WNBA season, I think preseason kicks off tonight. So it's about to go down soon here in New York because the Liberty is really doing its thing. And all the teams around the league, all the teams switched over this year. Huh?
2 new teams, right?
Oh yeah, 2 new teams. Girl, I forgot about that. 2 new teams. Well, the Valkyries are the season, so and then obviously Toronto's coming, right behind. So it's definitely a lot of great energy going on. And I don't know, summer used to be a quiet time for me from a sports standpoint, Like I do go support the Yankees and the Mets. It's a fun time, but with the way the W is starting to really step in here, and even what's happening on the soccer front, like it really is a good time now. So check
Yeah,
it out and enjoy.
I can't wait to see what they do, how Indianapolis handles this WNBA All-Star with Miss Caitlin being the face and all the things that are going to come with that. Because Indianapolis All-Star in Indianapolis a few years ago, it snowed, and I was like, it's okay, But so we're here, but it snowed 12 feet and it was supposed to be 1 inch and we got feet. And so now I'm like, okay, what are y'all gonna do this summer with this? And I was there last summer for the Olympic trials, and it's a great sports city. So this is going to be very interesting to see all the things that you've been talking about today, the culture, the fit, brands, what they do in Indy for the WNBA All-Star. That's going to be a topic that we for sure have to touch on.
Yeah, and hopefully I will see you there. I've already bought my ticket, so I will be in attendance doing a few things. So, okay, we'll be there. So look forward to it. All right,
Exactly.
guys. Well, thank you so much for tuning in for How the Business is Played. Thank you, Ivory, for joining me today, and I look forward to chatting about what's next week. Take care.
Bye-bye.